Every hero has a low point. It is in these moments of despair that true character is revealed, and the mettle of a leader is tested. For some, it is a fleeting moment, a brief encounter with failure. For others, it is a prolonged battle, a struggle that seems insurmountable. But for Lieutenant General Carter, it was a moment of utter defeat that would define his legacy. For Lieutenant General Carter, it was a moment of utter defeat. The battle at Exuor had been brutal, a clash of titans that left scars both visible and invisible. The once proud and invincible Brigadier Carter returned to Shu Prime, his body and spirit battered by the relentless onslaught of the enemy. The defeat was not just a military loss, it was a personal blow that shook him to his core. Brigadier Carter returned to Shu Prime, his scars a testament to the brutal defeat at Exuor. The journey back was a somber one, filled with the haunting memories of fallen comrades and the weight of responsibility. Each step he took was a reminder of the lives lost under his command, and the burden of their sacrifice weighed heavily on his shoulders. As he marched into the palace, the once vibrant whispers fell silent, replaced by the somber salutes of the palatial guardsmen. The grandeur of the palace, with its towering columns and ornate decorations, seemed to mock his defeat. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos of the battlefield. The guardsmen, who once looked up to him with admiration, now averted their eyes, unable to face the reality of his failure. They knew of his unit's fate, yet none dared meet his gaze. The news of the defeat had spread like wildfire, and the once revered brigadier was now a symbol of loss and despair. The soldiers who had once followed him into battle with unwavering loyalty now avoided him, their faith in his leadership shattered. It was a lonely walk through the halls of the palace, each step echoing the silence of his fallen comrades. Carter knocked on the marble-bark door of Emperor Zadric's chamber. The door, a symbol of power and authority, stood tall and imposing. As he raised his hand to knock, he felt a surge of emotions, anger, regret, and a burning desire for redemption. The sound of his knock reverberated through the halls, a call to the Emperor that could not be ignored. "Come in, old man," Zadric's voice resounded. The Emperor's voice, though commanding, held a hint of familiarity and camaraderie. It was a voice that Carter had heard countless times on the battlefield, a voice that had led them to victory and now called him in his moment of defeat. The bond between them was one forged in the crucible of war, but today it was strained by the weight of their shared losses. Their bond was one forged in battle, but today it was strained. The room was filled with an air of tension, a palpable sense of unease that hung between them. The Emperor, a figure of authority and strength, looked at Carter with a mixture of disappointment and concern. The silence between them was heavy, each waiting for the other to speak, to break the tension that had settled like a thick fog. "Arajakal defeated my unit," Carter admitted, "and killed most of my men. I hereby resign." The words were heavy, laden with the weight of his failure. Admitting defeat was not easy for a man of Carter's stature, but he knew it was the right thing to do. The loss of his men was a burden he could not bear, and he felt that stepping down was the only way to honor their sacrifice. But Zadric had other plans. The Emperor's eyes, once filled with disappointment, now gleamed with determination. He saw something in Carter that the brigadier himself could not see, a spark of potential, a glimmer of hope. Zadric knew that Carter's journey was far from over, and he was determined to reignite the fire within him. "Carter, you are hereby promoted to Lieutenant General." The words were a shock to Carter, a twist of fate that he had not anticipated. The promotion was not just a recognition of his past achievements, but a challenge to rise above his current defeat. It was a call to arms, a reminder that his journey was far from over. "Your command is the 3rd Zuvian Regular Army." The 3rd XRA was a motley crew of underfunded, undisciplined soldiers. The unit was a far cry from the elite forces Carter had once commanded, but it was a new beginning, a chance to rebuild and prove himself once more. The soldiers, though rough around the edges, had potential, and Carter was determined to mold them into a formidable force. The 3rd XRA was a motley crew of underfunded, undisciplined soldiers. The sight of the ragtag group was disheartening, but Carter saw beyond their current state. He saw the potential for greatness, the raw talent that lay beneath the surface. It was a daunting task, but Carter was no stranger to challenges. He knew that with the right leadership and training, these soldiers could become a force to be reckoned with. But Carter was determined to mold them into a formidable force. He began with the basics, instilling discipline and a sense of purpose in his men. The training was grueling, pushing the soldiers to their limits and beyond. Carter's methods were harsh, but he knew that only through hardship could they achieve greatness. He led by example, showing his men that he was willing to endure the same trials and tribulations that he demanded of them. He blasted their rusty vehicles with rage and pushed his men beyond their limits. The sight of the dilapidated equipment was a stark reminder of the challenges they faced. But Carter refused to let it deter him. He pushed his men to repair and maintain their vehicles, teaching them the importance of resourcefulness and ingenuity. The process was slow and arduous, but with each repaired vehicle, the soldier's confidence grew. His fury culminated in a massive astral explosion, a shocking display of power that shook his troops to their core. Yet he wasn't done. The explosion was a turning point, a moment that galvanized the soldiers and solidified their resolve. It was a demonstration of the power they could wield if they worked together and followed Carter's lead. The soldiers, once disheartened and disorganized, now looked to Carter with a newfound respect and determination. From forcing mystics to their knees to running infantry into the ground, Carter's wrath knew no bounds. The training was relentless, a crucible of fire that tested the limits of every soldier. Carter's methods were unorthodox, but they were effective. He pushed his men to their breaking points, knowing that only through such trials could they emerge stronger and more resilient. The mystics, once aloof and detached, were now integral members of the unit, their powers honed and focused under Carter's guidance. But through this crucible of fire, a new army was forged. The transformation was remarkable. The once undisciplined and underfunded unit was now a cohesive and formidable force. The soldiers, though battered and bruised, stood tall and proud, ready to face any challenge that came their way. Carter had succeeded in molding them into a unit that could stand toe-to-toe with the best of the best. Broken and battered, yet unyielding. The soldiers had endured unimaginable hardships, but they had emerged stronger and more determined than ever. Their bodies bore the scars of their training, but their spirits were unbroken. They had become a brotherhood, bound by their shared experiences and their unwavering loyalty to Carter, ready to face the insidious Gaul. The time had come to put their training to the test. The Gaul, a formidable and ruthless enemy, awaited them on the battlefield. But the soldiers of the 3rd XRA were ready. They had been forged in the fires of adversity, and they were prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With Carter at their helm, they marched forward with unwavering resolve. Lieutenant General Carter had risen from the depths of despair to command with an iron fist. His journey had been one of trials and tribulations, but he had emerged stronger and more determined than ever. The defeat at Exowal had been a turning point, a moment that had tested his resolve and his leadership. But Carter had risen to the challenge, transforming himself and his unit into a force to be reckoned with. As they marched into battle, the soldiers of the 3rd XRA knew that they were led by a man who had faced the depths of despair and emerged victorious. They were ready to follow him into the fray, confident in their abilities and their leader. The rise of Lieutenant General Carter was a testament to the power of resilience, determination, and the unyielding spirit of a true leader.